Welcome everyone to Measuring Your Marketing, also known as Metrics Are Magic, how to use reports and analytics to evaluate your marketing campaigns. My name is Albert Kaufman, and I am a teacher, practitioner, student, and user of social media and email marketing. And I help folks with their marketing. I also do a fair bit of marketing myself, both teaching people how to use the different tools, but also using them myself, both for my own projects, some of which you may know about if you've been following my efforts over the years. One of them is called Farm My Yard, where I try to connect landowners with people who are interested in urban gardening. And I have a bunch of other different things that I'm working on right now. I'm trying to protect some trees in my neighborhood. So I use the tools that I'm teaching others how to use for the projects that I work on. And I also write newsletters for folks and send out their newsletters. So I've got a number of different clients that I work with at different levels to help them with their marketing. So if that interests you, if you're having difficulty getting your newsletter out into the world, feel free to reach out to me. And here are some ways to do it via email. You can always call me, and you can also contact me through my website. And I think I do a pretty good job of working with people. I have clients that have been with me for years. I do the work for the Alberta Rose Theater, and I have got a client, Rocket Math, who's been with me for a long time. And I really like working with small businesses and helping them grow and thrive. So if that excites you, feel free to give me a call or contact me, and let's see how we can work together. And for those of you who do have Constant Contact already, I really do encourage you to join up with my managed care program. That's one of the best ways to get some free support and get what you're doing tuned up to my specifications. And I, oftentimes it's just a matter of spending half hour, an hour together and figuring out what you're doing so far, and then moving along from there. So that's a little bit about me, and you'll be hearing from me until you don't want to anymore. You can always unsubscribe from things I send you. And Constant Contact will also be sending you an email thanking you for being here today and probably making you an offer of some sort. And speaking of offers, Constant Contact is basically underwriting today's webinar. And there are a lot of different tools that they offer. Most of us think about Constant Contact, we think about newsletters and announcements, but there are also offers and promotions, the ability to do Facebook promotions. You've probably seen those before, where you come to a Facebook page and you put in your email address and you get a white paper, or you get a coupon or something like that. So there's that type of a promotion. There's also the possibility of asking for feedback through surveys. There's a wonderful survey tool that integrates really well with the newsletter. And so every once in a while, I'll send out a survey that goes out to, some segmented part of my email list. I keep a number of different email lists, and there's probably about 30 of them. And, it's friends and family, it's people who live in Portland, it's people who live in Idaho, so I really segment it down as much as I can, and I highly recommend everybody do that. And one way to actually segment your list is by using a survey. You can figure out, okay, you've got a list of 1,000 people that you've been accumulating over the years, but maybe you haven't been doing a good job of separating them into the different categories that might make sense. You can always use a survey to do that. So you send a survey out to those 1,000 people and say, okay, are you a morning person? Are you an afternoon person? Are you an evening person? Are you male or female? When's your birthday? You can ask lots of different questions and then find ways to segment people who you have on your list, so that then you can reach them with a message that's more attuned to what they're interested in. I would say that surveying is probably one of the least used tools in the Constant Contact suite of tools. And yet, when I use it, it's probably the most valuable results that I get of anything that I do. So, note to self, use more surveys. And then there's also events and registrations. And today's event, the webinar you're on is an event. And so the registration process that you went through to be here today is an event registration process. And through that, I learned something about you. I gathered a little bit of information. And that is something that you might consider as well, is hosting an event is a way to attract new people to your business, is a way for you to share your thinking. It doesn't have to be a webinar. It can be an in-person event. It could be a birthday party, whatever. But this is one of the tools within Constant Contact that you'll probably see if you go to any of my live events. And that is a way to understand both how event marketing works, but also to see what that product works. And for any of you who haven't got Constant Contact already, or haven't seen the event tool before, if you do have a Constant Contact account, you can sign up for a trial of the event tool and see how that works. Also, the survey tool, you can sign up for a trial of that as well if you've already got Constant Contact, and I know a lot of you do. And for those of you who don't have Constant Contact, if you sign up for a trial of Constant Contact, you end up getting access to all of these different tools, and you can see how each of them work and how they work together. And it's a great way to see, whether it's right for you or not. But it's also a good way just to see what is out there and what kinds of things people are doing. Like even just looking at the survey tool and seeing, what a pre-populated survey looks like, or looking at the event registration tool and seeing, okay, well, these are the kinds of things the kinds of questions that people ask, I think is a good way to sort of pique your interest and understanding of different ways that marketing works. Seems we've got a question. I think I'll just stop for a second. And Kim asks, yes, so all of these different tools are included in the toolkit. Yes. So the basic cost of Constant Contact is about $20 a month for up to 500 contacts, and then it goes up to $35 a month between 500 and 2,500 contacts. And when you pay by the month and by the number of contacts, but you could be sending daily if you want to. In fact, I've got a client, the Swami Bhyananda, who sends out an email every day called the Daily Laugh-sative. And if you go to my website, albertideation.com, you can see I've got a little sign-up sheet where you can sign up for the Daily Laugh-sative. I find it pretty funny. He's a comedian slash philosopher slash Swami. And I saw him at the Oregon Country Fair this year, and I just realized I really wanted to get to know him better. So he's become a client, and we chat back and forth. It's been quite fun. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know through tomorrow there is a package that there's two different offers out there from Constant Contact, and I will send these slides to you also at the end of the webinar today so you can see them up close. But basically, the two packages are the Kickstart, where you can get a campaign design that matches your website. And that's also something that if you're interested in being part of my partner program, I would be glad to help you with. If you're not using a mobile-friendly template right now, that is something to do to change, as quickly as you possibly can, because many people are looking at your work on mobile devices. So that's something to consider. And then down here, the other promotion that's happening right now is 30% off for 3 months. And this is for new accounts. And the way to get that is by using this promotion code at the end of your buying process. And this is the one to use if you want to go for the design. If you're interested in this one, I would be happy to just throw in a design for you. So if you're considering either, just let me know and we'll work something out. All right. So why are we here today? We're going to talk about metrics and measuring your marketing and seeing what you're doing. Because marketing, if you're not measuring it, you're not really marketing, according to some people. You're really going by sort of a gut sense of, how well you're doing. But when you measure what you're doing and you look at the different behaviors that people respond to, or, people's responses to things that you've done, it allows you to make different choices and also adjust what you're doing and perhaps improve it. So, small businesses believe that reports and analytics provide a business advantage. That when we did a survey of small businesses, 75% responded that this was true for them. And 67% responded that it helps people retain customers. So people do believe that reports and analytics, are a positive thing. Whether we're using them or not is another question. And I myself know that, part of my own learning is to also delve into the reports. And I'm going to show you some of the reports and analytics that I have just of my recent efforts to reach you, for instance, for this class today, and show you sort of how those play out. But that's going to come later in the webinar, probably closer to the end. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about marketing with reports and analytics. We're going to talk about different campaign types and reports that you can pull from these different campaign types. And then we're going to talk about how to evaluate a marketing campaign. So first, marketing with reports and analytics. So how do reports and analytics relate to your marketing? At its core, marketing is about getting results. So what this means, and if any of you have been to any of my classes before, you've probably seen a slide that looks like this. Marketing is really about getting some kind of result. You take some kind of an action, you make an email newsletter, you post something on Facebook, you tweet something on Twitter, you make a phone call, you put out a flyer, you're doing something. And we're all doing marketing often. So the idea is that by doing these actions, we're hoping to get some kind of response. We're hoping to elicit a donation, see somebody show up in a church seat, have somebody buy your book. So, or make a referral or share something that you've done. So we're always looking for some kind of a result when we take some kind of an action. And maybe it's just a reminder. Maybe it's just the fact that, I sent out an email today to people asking them to come to this webinar. And whether or not they come to the webinar, one of the effects of the effort is also just reminding them that I am in the business of webinars and I am in the business of marketing. So, there can be a lot of different reasons that you do things and a lot of different results that you're looking for. So reports and analytics. Reports show you what is happening now, and analytics help you make decisions for tomorrow. So reports are, just showing you what actually happened in this moment. And when you look at analytics, you look at various actions that you've been taking over time and suss out what the trend has been. So there are ways to look at analytics and compare yourself to different industries. If you look down here at the bottom at this website, bit.ly/CTCT open rates, you will see a listing of how well different industries do, and that's a good way to gauge. For instance, when you send an email newsletter and you're in the restaurant industry, 22.72% open rates. Medical services, and you can see how you stack up against another industry. Now, these are industry averages. Your business may or may not exactly fit into one of these categories or not, and so you have to take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, but it's something to shoot for. And if you're doing better than the average, then wonderful. But it's just something to have a look at and kind of keep in mind. Marketing campaign types and reports. So when you look in Constant Contact, for instance, and this is why I was hoping that folks would sign up for trials who didn't have them. And if you happen to have your Constant Contact account handy and you're able to open it up and look at this at the same time, might be a good time to do that. But this is basically what the reporting tool looks like within Constant Contact. You can see how many campaigns have been sent, how many contacts you've got, different event registrants, survey responses, coupons. Depending on the kind of campaign you've done, you can see the different kinds of engagements. And then once you look down further in the reporting section, you can see something like this, that this is a recent campaign that was sent. It'll show you how many people opened it, how many people clicked, and how many people sent. I'm sorry, and how many times how many people you reached out to. So what's really interesting about something like this is you can see how many people opened it, not only how many people, but if you drill down and click on this number, you'll get down into the actual people who opened the email. And then when you look at clicks, you can see how many people actually clicked on the link that you were hoping that they would click on. And what's very interesting about that is, let's say you're I'm just going to use colors for an example, red, green, and blue. So there's a red link, a green link, and a blue link. And let's say 10 people clicked on the blue link and no one clicked on the red link. Then something about what you have proposed in the blue link, was attractive to people. And for going forward, you might take the people who had clicked on the blue link and perhaps add them to a blue list because they're interested in the color blue. So here you can see, how many people registered for this event. Here you can see, out of all the different sends, the different people who responded to the survey, etc. So these are great tools to see who is taking action when you're asking them to, who isn't, and people who aren't taking action are equally important because, this is an opportunity to say, okay, out of the 214 people who I sent to, these 25 opened, but so many didn't. So maybe those people who didn't next time get a different message. Something about your messaging isn't working. Was it the subject line? Was it the teaser text? Was it the time you sent? Something might want to be adjusted here. So if you're the kind of person who takes screenshots of webinars, this next section is for you. And this will also come to you, again, as a PDF file that you can look at more closely. But this is a wonderful way to look at and think about the different kinds of campaigns and the different ways that you can measure things. And the one I'm showing you here on the screen is going to be a shortened version of the one that you'll be able to see on the PDF. That's going to have a lot more information on it. So with an email, some things that are measured are the open rate, the click-through rate, how many people bounced, and why their email bounced. That's also very interesting. If you look at the bounces of your emails, you'll see within Constant Contact. And when I say Constant Contact, if you're not using Constant Contact, that's fine. Anything that I'm talking about here should be transferable to any program that you're using. So don't get caught up in that. And my apologies if you do. And but basically all of this information is really transferable to lots of other programs. And so just take the information in and know that these kind of things are available. So the click-through rate, how many people clicked through. The bounces, again, when I was starting to talk about bounces, so sometimes bounces are the person's on vacation. Sometimes bounces are if the bounce is suspended. If you look in the category of the bounce is suspended, that means Constant Contact won't send to that email address again. So you need to double check, make sure the email is good, and then contact Constant Contact and say, hey, this email actually is good. Sometimes the email address wasn't entered correctly. You can go in there and look and then change it. You can also see if people considered your email spam, something you want to try to avoid. And then you can also see who has unsubscribed or opted out. For an event, you can look at registration status. Did a person register or not? Then afterwards, who attended? So there's a difference between, somebody who says they're going to come to something and someone who actually shows up. And those two people are, possible future segmented lists, showed interest but didn't come. So maybe the time was wrong. Maybe the location was too far away. Maybe it rained. So for whatever reason, you want to adjust your marketing in the future once you learn, who registered, who attended, and then also, payment status, who paid for your event and how much they paid. So these are all great pieces of information to have in the future. For a survey, checking the response rate. Did you get one response when you sent out to 500 people? Did you get 100% response? Really, really interesting information. And again, something that can help you adjust your marketing going forward. Because, the idea is you want all of these numbers to go up. So for instance, if you're trying to get your open rate to go up, maybe it's adjusting the subject line. Maybe it's figuring out when the best time to send your newsletter is. Do you want your response rates for the survey to go up? Same kind of thing. Maybe it's the subject line. Maybe you sent a survey to a group of people. Maybe the survey was too long. Maybe you want to shorten it. Maybe the questions need to be adjusted. So as we're looking at this, I'm having a difficulty thinking of what I'm actually looking at. But as we're looking at this graph, this spreadsheet, do be thinking about, okay, what responses for each of these might trigger what behavior in the future to improve things. So click-through rate to the survey. Someone might open the survey, but maybe they didn't actually click through to take the survey. What may entice them? Perhaps a $20 gift card would entice them, or saying, okay, I'm going to give a $20 gift card to somebody who takes the survey, randomly chosen, or some other gift that you might offer. Maybe you offer everyone who answers the survey some kind of gift. So for an offer or a promotion, the number that are claimed or sold. This is something like Groupon. The Constant Contacts version is called Save Local. It's a great product, and again, works well with your email list. And so also checking and seeing how much revenue did you gain? Did you gain any new customers? How far did this get? How far out did this get? How many people shared the offer or promotion that you were doing? In terms of donations, how much have you raised? Do you feel like you raised the amount that you wanted to? If not, what could you do differently next time? Or maybe it's a GoFundMe or an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter. Maybe it's something that's ongoing and it's going to take you, it's a month-long effort. If that's the case, what are you going to do differently day by day? And by the way, this is something that I'm I wouldn't say I'm an expert in, but I would say I have been working on helping people with their fundraisers for the last couple of years, and I definitely know some things about it. In fact, I should probably do a webinar just on how to run a successful Kickstarter. In fact, I just did one recently. As an aside, I'll share with you. A friend of mine was going off out of email shot and out of Facebook range for about a week, and while she was gone, I've known that she's really wanted to work on a book for a long time, but she doesn't really have the slack. She's raising a son by herself, and she's got a small business and this and that. And so I did a GoFundMe for her while she was gone, and I helped raise. I certainly didn't pay the whole amount, but we raised $1,111 in about a week from a bunch of her friends that were interested, and that was just a lot of fun. So if you've never done a fundraiser like that and your organization needs funds, I highly recommend it. It's an interesting experience, especially if you have a team that can focus on it. So anyway, and the donation tool within Constant Contact is a great tool to use as well. So that's something to consider. How many donors did you get? For my GoFundMe, I think we probably ended up having about 30 donors that raised that money. But I would have loved more. I was actually trying to encourage people to give small amounts and just be part of the group. But luckily, we had a couple big ones too. And then in terms of social media, what kind of engagement are you getting? Now, this is an area I have to laugh because forever, or for the last 7 years or so, we've all been so enamored by Facebook, and everybody's on Facebook. It's 1.3 billion people, and many of us got used to our Facebook fan pages actually producing quite well during the time that Facebook allowed fan pages to have quite a bit of organic reach. If I had 1,000 people who liked my page, 100 or two would see the thing that I posted. And now, without doing advertising, unless you have something that's just extremely appetizing and titillating and enticing, the chances of your posts on social media getting all that much engagement are low. Now, this isn't true for every business, but I would say for many small businesses, especially those that are just getting involved in Facebook and fan pages, unless you have something that is just super exciting to people, or you have some content that's just really viral, or you have a following, doing that much posting on social media, in my opinion, is somewhat of a waste of time. I've noticed that the engagement on my fan pages has gone from maybe 10% 2 years ago to almost 0% now. I've posted a number of things recently on some of my fan pages and had 0 people reached. So, in terms of and you never know what's going to happen with something. I mean, something could take off. It's good to play the lottery. If you don't play, you don't win, that kind of thing. But I would personally, and I do, put all of my time in this category right here. I spend pretty much all of my time just working with my email list and sending out newsletters and that kind of thing, and surveys and events. But I don't spend as much time in the social media area. So I'm just going to kind of continue on, but just know that's my own personal preference. And if you want to hear more about my thinking on that, I've got an article on my blog, albertideation.com/blog. I've written 2 articles in the last month about social media and my thinking about it, and why I recommend people put more time into email marketing. And it's not just me. I'm not like singing this song alone. It's pretty much all marketers, I think, are feeling the same way. So click-through rate and social media. Are you reaching people? Are you gaining new fans and followers? These are great things. And at the same time, like I said, I think the actual value of them, unless you are going to do advertising. If you're doing advertising on Facebook, I think or Instagram or Twitter, then it's a different story. But without doing advertising, I think that effort is not that valuable. So what if scenarios? So what if you're getting a high open rate and you're getting a low click-through rate? So you might have a great subject line, but maybe your content is not fantastic. So that would be something to look at. You might find better time of day. Look at the various keywords that you're using, within your content, and you might try segmenting your audience by interest. If you're getting a low click-through rate, you might try a stronger call to action, making sure that your email is mobile friendly and keeping the email short. And that's one of the trends that I'm definitely seeing in the email marketing world, is shorter content. By the way, if anyone does have a question, I'd be glad to stop for a minute. I've been talking for a while, so if you do have a question at this point, feel free to pose it, and I'll see if I can handle it while drinking coffee and talking to you at the same time. So if you have a low open rate but a high click-through rate, here are some of the different ways to improve it and make it better. And we do have a question. Let's see who's got a question. So, okay, I don't actually see a question, but I see a hand raised. Okay. Anyway, so a low open rate, high click-through rate, here are some of the ways to improve your situation. Okay, here we go. So Christy asks if there are recommendations for ideal times of day to send emails. Sure. The ideal time for everyone to send their email is going to probably depend on who your clientele is and what their behavior is like. There's a lot of really interesting information out there. Many people think from 10 to 2, Tuesdays through Thursdays is the best time. I've seen people talk about sending on the weekends because weekends are a time that people are away from work, but oftentimes they're still checking their email. And by the way, did you know that people check their email 150 times a day? I mean, you might not do that, but it's kind of crazy, and I'm probably susceptible to that myself. So those are some ideas in terms of when to send. And then, checking, doing like an A/B split test of your list and cutting your list in half, sending, one group Tuesday morning and the other group Tuesday afternoon and see what happens. I also think that people check their email in the evening. I look at email all day long, so I don't know if that's true for you, but if so, that's something to check, is to do a A/B test. And so Kim asks, how much blog content, sentences, paragraphs should be in the newsletter before being redirected to the website? That's a really good question. And I would say that there is no real one answer to that. Some people love being able to read everything right in one spot, and some people like being able to be redirected. So I would test your audience and see what their response is. And Christine asks, what's the difference between open rate and click-through rate? So Christine, the open rate is when, like for instance, in Constant Contact, or actually just any program, if I open the email and I'm looking at it, that is the open rate. If I then click on a link within the email, that is the click-through rate. So that's what we're talking about there. And so a person can open the email once, and then they can click on 5 different links. And so there you'd have 1 open and 5 click-throughs. All right, so I'm going to continue on. So you have a low registration, high attendance for your event. Here are some ways to improve. And if you've got a high attendance, you might make it better by staying with the similar time, date, and location, and survey to find out what's working. Sending a reminder and including multimedia. Now that's a great, very pertinent topic to today's class, because I see a lot of marketers sending out reminders that their webinar is starting in an hour. And personally, I had never done that before. And this morning I woke up and I just thought, why didn't I try that? So I sent out an email to folks, and I'm sure a couple of you are on the webinar because I reminded people that I was doing this webinar, an hour before I was doing it. And that really just sort of reminded me of the power of, email marketing for me, because I can reach so many people so quickly. So that's something to keep in mind for yourself as well, as building a list or ways to contact people, as large number of people as you can with your message, especially if you want them to take some kind of an action. That certainly does help. And then the timing of it is really important as well. So, I knew I was going to do this webinar 2 weeks ago, and I've been mentioning it to people, but having a reminder an hour before, people like to sometimes do something or learn something and then be spontaneous and do something in that moment. So think about that as you're going. So having a high registration and low attendance, ways to make it better, promote the event on multiple channels, including multimedia and promotions. And that's something I've been definitely tempted by I have one friend who does a lot of video, and he's really, really getting good at it. And that's an area that I have not really poked my head into too much. I've done a little bit of it, but it's something that I should really be considering because I'm photogenic and I like to speak, and I don't know, I'll have to try that out. Now, that's also one area within social media that social media platforms really love native video. And what that means is not when you upload to YouTube, although YouTube likes that, but if you upload something directly into Facebook, they're giving that lots and lots of coverage. So that is one way to get more engagement, is by uploading some native video. So give that a try sometime. Giving past attendees early registration, I see that happening. And also giving past attendees less expensive registration, I think, is also a way, if you are charging for events, to bring people in. If you're having low attendance, perhaps the time, date, or location are not correct. Providing different incentives, sending reminders, and I would also add, making it so that when someone registers, they see who else is registered, and then also possibly making it so that they can make it easy for them to invite their friends. And it looks like we've got another question. Okay, and so I think, Daniel, I've hopefully covered your question. And Kim has asked about the autoresponder and the webinar autoresponder. I'm going to have to take that offline with you. I'm not quite sure what you're asking. And yeah, and so Avi mentions that the reminder that I sent out this morning helped me find the link for the webinar immediately without having to search through his email. So thank you for that. And thank you, Avi. Good point. And so in social media, if you're having high engagement but low click-through rate, make it better. Offer different topics, try different kinds of media that you're sharing, and optimize the times and dates that work. Obviously, you don't want to be posting too often at 2 in the morning. Not that many people are looking at social media at 2 in the morning, at least not in, if most of your friends are on the West Coast, let's say, and you post at 2 in the morning, there's just a few of us that are looking at that point. And I have to admit, sometimes it's me. But the chances that you're posting on your fan page, even if I like the fan page, that I'm going to see that at 2 in the morning are so ridiculously infinitesimal that I really wouldn't even bother. So, and low click-through rate. Often offer reasons to click the links. Keep the post visually interesting. Post often, but not too often. And here are some other thoughts around social media. Posting when your fans are online, again, including multimedia. And you always want to include pictures when you post on Facebook. Even if you're posting on your personal page, I recommend always including some sort of visual, because it is part of how the whole system works, and people are attracted to visual content. So spotlighting on the click-throughs. Here's the click-through area, and then when you drill down, as I talked about before, you can see who has clicked on which links, and then that group of people you can click through and see, okay, these people have actually clicked on this link, and so perhaps they mean they are more engaged than your average bear. So for instance, 214 people were sent to, 25 people opened the email, and then there were 21 clicks, and those are the clicks right here. That's the click-through rate. So this could be also something where you look at who didn't open. Now right here it says did not open, that's 1, but my guess is actually it's closer to, this should read 180. And so that group could also be a group that you then make up a new list, non-engaged customers, and perhaps do something different for them. So how do you evaluate your marketing campaign? So here's a little scenario. The Half Moon Yoga Studio, decides to do a marketing campaign. They've got their website set up, and it's looking good. And so they set a goal. Their goal is 16% open rate and 7% click-through rate. And so they create a campaign, they make a newsletter. It looks, nice and simple. All they're asking for is for the person to go and take a look at the new website. They've got this beautiful new website and they want people to come and look at it. And so they send the campaign, it goes out to folks, and they come in and they see they've got a 12% open rate and a 10% click rate. And I'll also mention right here that one of the interesting things about doing email and email newsletters is that most of the people that open up your newsletter are opening it up in the first hour. Now, that's not completely true. Like when I sent out my last survey, I would say that there was that people took that survey. A lot of people did take it in the first hour, and then a lot of people did take it in the first day. But then there were people that took it in a week later or 2 weeks later. So I had to kind of keep an eye and see what the responses were, because I was asking for comments and I was asking for feedback. I'll probably be sending out a survey as well that you'll get, I would say, in the next couple of weeks. So if you're curious about surveys and how they're useful, you can keep an eye out for that, and you'll see some of what I do with my surveys. Anyway, these results weren't all that exciting, I think, for the Half Moon Yoga Studio. So they are then going to apply the lessons. They're going to change their subject line from check out our new website to registering for your favorite class just got easier. And, maybe they're going to look in here and try to figure out, through looking at the metrics, what success looks like. And so they had the particular results, they see what worked, they see what didn't, and then they're going to use this spreadsheet to try to plan out their future activity as an organization. And this sample sheet is something that will also come to you in the PDF, and it's something to consider. And only by doing something like this and taking the time, let's say once a month, once every 6 months, to sit down and look at, okay, what have I been doing for this past period of time? And is it actually working? And what efforts, have I done, and what can I do differently to make things better? And that's really the whole point about the class today, is how you evaluate what you've been doing so far and how you can then improve, and hopefully your business will grow and you'll get new clients and new visitors and whatever it is that you're looking for. So setting benchmarks for yourself, seeing perhaps the benchmarks could be what your most recent campaign has done, or the average of your last 3 campaigns, and then see, okay, how can I improve from there? You want to set a frequency to review the reports and make changes to your marketing. I'm a big fan of doing things on a monthly basis. So, maybe that would work for you as well. So, personally, I pick a day of the month. My newsletter for friends and family goes out on the 11th. It's called the 11. That's been something I've been doing since 2008. So pick a day. Maybe it's the 1st of the month. Maybe it's the 15th of the month. And have a look at your reporting. And, this is also a great way to ask your, if you're working for an organization and the organization needs you to, get some kind of reasoning for why you exist. The reporting and the analytics and, using that reporting and printing it out and showing it to people is a good way also to say, okay, this is, why we're here, and this is what we're doing with that marketing budget. This is what I'm doing with my time. So it's a great verification that what you're doing is working, or it's having some kind of an effect. So, this is something that you could do on a monthly basis. And then as you're adjusting whatever it is you're adjusting, so let's say you're changing your branding, you want to do changes gradually. You don't want to switch over, for instance, from, one website to another I mean, obviously that's something that often does happen in all at once. But something like an email newsletter, if you're going to change or you're going to move into a particular direction, you want to start slowly and see, what does a gradual change here do? What does adjusting this little part do? So, I mean, if your marketing is just not working at all and you're getting sort of zero response or a lot of unsubscribes, then obviously you might want to take some drastic actions. But generally, you want to try going at a more gradual pace. So as I mentioned earlier today, there is this Kickstart package going on for Constant Contact, and I'll send you the slides for this so you can see this up close and get reminded of it or send it to a friend. It ends tomorrow, and then the fun thing for me is I'm about to head down to Las Vegas for the Constant Contact convention, the annual convention. I'm going down there next Sunday, so I'm going to go and learn a whole bunch and get reminded of what I'm doing and meet other folks who are doing it too. So I'm excited to come back and be recharged and have all sorts of great information for everybody, and hopefully recharge myself as well. And so this is pretty much all I have for you today. I'm happy to answer any more questions if anyone wants to raise their hand and ask a question or two. I'd be happy to take those now. And otherwise, you are welcome to go on with your day. I'm trying to think of what else I've got coming up. I am going to be teaching a class in November in Hood River, and probably also the Dalles, and I'll also be in Boise in the third week in October doing a product training, and also in Eugene doing a product training in October. We do have a class. We do have a question. Let's see, what is it? Okay, so Terry asks, you mentioned the Constant Contact Convention. Can anyone attend that, and how do you find out about it? Well, Terry, I believe, I'm not sure about that. It may just be for people who are solution providers, and I will take this offline with you. But basically, what I do is I am a Constant Contact solution provider, and so I am an affiliate of theirs, and I also teach classes and that kind of thing. If what I do looks interesting to you, or if you're interested in more information, I would be glad to talk to anybody who is on the line about the Solution Provider Program. I started in, I think, 2008 with it, and it's been fantastic. I really enjoy it. It's one, there's a lot of different affiliate programs out there in the world. I've never seen one that is as well supported as this. So I've really been enjoying my participation in it. And if that's something that interests you, I would be glad to talk to you further about it and share with you how to get started with it. And then Rumi asks, what is a successful open rate to click-through rate ratio? That is a great question. It's a great question, just also the way it's worded. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. I would say that open rates are, it's great if you have high open rates and you have high click-through rate ratio. But what's really important when it comes down to it is the reaction, is the response to what you're doing, benefiting you? Are you getting people to click on the links that you want them to and buy the thing, or show up at the event, or share, the information, or visit the website, or whatever it is? So I would say that the ratio there is probably not the thing to look at, but more that you're getting the number of clicks on the thing that you're sending out that makes it beneficial for you. So that's something that I would consider. I'm going to keep taking questions for as long as people want to answer them. And I just want to sign off for the recording part of the session and say thank you very much for participating today and for being here and for studying to make what you're doing better. And I think we all benefit when we learn and take some extra time to study and get better at what we're doing. So I appreciate your participation.